Okay, so Oshi's gonna judge off Rek because I'm pretty sure he said he's having gay sex with Hermes or something. But all right. Why does that king guy beat that Yamato girl, bro?
I mean, there's two ways. I have like statements that can prove it, and I also have a chain scale. I mean, I can give you both if you want.
It's up to you. However you want to try and prove your claim, man.
Okay, I'll start with the chain scale first, and like if I feel like we've concluded on that scaling, we can go into the statements.
Mm-hmm.
So, my chain scale is really simple. It's just gonna be Yamato performs worse against Kaido than Zoro does. So Zoro over Yamato, and I do think King is relatively above Zoro. So yeah.
Okay, so you said Yamato's performance against Kaido was worse than Zoro's performance against Kaido, and that Zoro's above Yamato? Wait, King's
Yeah.
performance against Kaido. Wait, hold on, wait. This doesn't make any sense. Am I tripping? Is this just the first part of the chain scale, or is this the whole thing?
No, no, no. Okay, let me repeat it. My chain scale is just like Zoro above Yamato and King is above Zoro. And I think Zoro's above Yamato through their interactions with Kaido.
Okay, hold on. So King above Zoro. Yamato's performance was worse than Zoro's performance against Kaido. And then what was the other thing?
That was all.
Okay. Alright, yeah, I guess just send Yamato's performance against Kaido and Zoro's performance against Kaido. And then obviously after that we can get into whether or not King is below Zoro.
Okay. 3 seconds. Um.
Boom, boom.
Sending. 200 should I send?
Bro, this guy in chat asked if he wants to debate, and I was about to reply, "You can be my fourth one of the day." But Infinity will genuinely like lynch me. We were supposed to watch like 3 hours ago, and I kept delaying it for random shit. Because today's the only day he's free this week, other than the weekend. But I'm busy over the weekend.
Hmm. Okay, so look in chat. Not in chat, in scans. I sent a bunch of scans, basically like their interactions. Zoro is just capable of just like, beating down on Yamato. Um, and the first scan I sent, he knocks like Yamato into like a rock. The second scan I sent, he just knocks her to the floor. And the third scan, he just knocks her to the floor. And then in the fifth scan, he basically like knocks her once again. And in the sixth scan, he basically like starts pressuring Yamato and puts her on the defensive. So like,
Okay, wait. This
I don't think
is
there's
wait.
any
This is
relativity
Zoro and
here.
Yamato. Zoro's the big guy.
No, Kaido's the big guy.
Okay, okay. This is Kaido and Yamato. Okay. Dun, 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 dog fruit, mythical type. Mm-mm-mm. You have always intended to kill me. Who says that? Kaido?
Yamato.
Oh, Yamato. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. Wait, is this her dad?
Yeah.
Bro. Okay. You cannot escape your bloodline. You're still the son of Kaido. Wait, is she trans? I guess, bro.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know that One Piece had trans people. Okay. Well, all right. Well, in terms of this, I mean, sure. I think Kaido is, sorry, Yamato is having a terrible performance here. That's fine. The only issue, well, actually, one of the issues I have with this is there can obviously be like surrounding context as to why they're performing badly beyond just their general powers. I'm not gonna be disingenuous and say like ask you to just prove the lack of like any other surrounding context, but based off the scans themselves, it seems like what's trying to be communicated here is some kind of narrative point of how Kaido's, trying to kill Yamato and Kaido's, being rough and violent, whatever, whereas Yamato does not understand why or is at least surprised at the fact that Kaido would do such a thing, which obviously would just raise the credence for her being unlikely, or sorry, would make it more unlikely that make it more likely for her to be going all out in the same way that he is. So if she's having a horrible performance, I think that can just come down to that. I also want to point out the fact that it doesn't have to be like significant in the sense that obviously just as not necessarily a quantifier. So obviously I'm not saying significant to mean in a way to make an impact in the fight, because obviously that's what I'm arguing. When I say significant, I'm just saying like an extreme amount. It can be the case that she's, I don't know, 10% or 5% weaker and slower because of this, because she's not trying to kill him or she's holding back to that kind of extent. And then because of that, she's slower than him and weaker than him and then losing. I don't know why like relativity or anything like that has to come down to that. Also, I don't really know their moves or anything. So maybe she has some kind of like surrounding hacks, I'm not sure. Or he's using something here where she's like specifically weak to that Zoro wouldn't be, or maybe like he's specifically weaker to swords. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so number one, like I actually think it'd be the opposite of like your like interpretation. You're saying that like okay, given the context surrounding this fight, it could be possible that Yamato is just trying to understand why Kaido is like and doing the things that he's doing, which would mean that she probably isn't going to be going full
Do
power.
you mind if I cut you off just for clarity, real quick?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, to be clear, I'm not saying that she's trying to understand. What I'm saying is that she's shocked at this because this is probably not what she's doing. So, like, she sees him, going, like, trying to murder someone who's part of his own family, whereas, like, she wouldn't be willing to do the same thing, which is why she's, like, surprised at him for doing it. That's how I'm interpreting it.
Okay, so for number one, like I do not think Yamato would be surprised at the fact that like Kaido's trying to kill her, because it would be just the case that like Yamato, like when she was growing up, was constantly getting beaten by Kaido, and like they basically fought many times before this point. I can like send scans proving that if you want after I'm done explaining it. But like I don't think she would be surprised at the prospect that he's trying to do this. He's like basically been beating her most of like her life, so it would kind of just be the case where like I don't think this would come as any kind of surprise or shock to her, which I don't think would like hinder her in combat in any way, shape, or form. Number two, I actually disagree with your interpretation that she would be surprised, not only because of the reasoning I just gave, but it's also would just be the case. Like, if anything, I think it'd be the other way around. But basically, Kaido is actively trying to convince Yamato to not like betray him and not be like not work with the Straw Hat and become Shogun of Wano, because what Kaido like wants Yamato to be is the Shogun of Wano. So because of that fact, I think it actually gives credence to the idea that Kaido actually is holding back and basically just like actively trying to convince Yamato to like change her mind about this. So I do not think that like Yamato would have some kind of any kind of like form of confliction throughout this interaction. If anything, it'd be Kaido. Number three, you also said that Yamato or like Kaido could have like Yamato could have some kind of hack. Okay, can you repeat that like the hacks point? Because I forgot what you
We
said.
can we can disregard that. It's fine.
Okay. Well, that's all. That was all my response was.
All right. For the first thing you said, what something like he's always like he used to beat her up or something, and because of that you think it's unlikely that she'd be surprised at this. I just don't think the diction supports that. So like if we look at the scan, it says, you have always intended to kill me with like I think 3 or 4 exclamation marks. um if she's obviously exclaiming this, like, it's something that's new to her, right? People don't just say, or like something that she's trying to argue with, right? And I think in this scenario it's significantly more likely. Obviously those are two options when someone's exclaiming something like that, the most likely ones. But um in this situation where she's saying this, I think it's significantly more likely that it's because of surprise, and like quote unquote new information to her, not because, like a moment of realization, not because she's just like trying to convince him or tell him something. The reason for that is one, like obviously, as you said, or sorry, as under my interpretation, he would be trying to kill this person. So it doesn't make sense for her to be communicating it to him. So I think it's more likely that the author here is trying to communicate something to us, and what they're trying to communicate again is this like very common narrative point when people in the same family are fighting, which is, wow, like you're actually trying to kill me, right? Um, I think especially in Shonen Jump that's very common. So like for example, even though they're not technically family, Naruto and Sasuke might as well be. Whereas Naruto specifically says that he's not going to try to kill Sasuke. That's something that's brought up throughout the entire anime over and over again. Obviously, Naruto and One Piece were also coming out around the same time. That's why they're both part of the big three. So yeah, obviously, I think that implies shock, and shock would obviously imply surprise, which is why I think that it's surprising. In regards to this pattern of abuse leading into it, instead of just my credence linked to it in terms of the credence you try to bring up, I think that's problematic because like it doesn't really contradict what I'm saying. It can be perfectly fitted into the view. I don't think it actually decreases the likelihood of the view for a parent to abuse their child and the child to still be surprised at the prospects of them being killed by their parent. So like for example, if I like beat my child like their entire life, they can still love me. It's very common to have abusive households because obviously the kid at 7 years old doesn't just go to the police and go arrest my dad, right? It's I'm still going to see family, blah blah blah. Even if they have like hatred between them, there's still this aspect of family, and obviously that would be present within Shonen Jump and One Piece specifically. Um, it just seems unlikely, or sorry, I don't see how that would actually raise the credence of your view or decrease the credence of mine. And then obviously I've given why I think mine's more likely. And then so what was the other thing that you said? You said that oh yeah, something about him trying to make her do something with Wano. I don't know what the fuck that is, but um, based off the scan and like the way that it's presented, I think it says something like I tell you, this is why I tell you, and then something like he can be explaining himself. It's very common for abusers and especially like narcissists, which is the most common kind of parental abuser, and domestic abuser, obviously, which is relevant here, to obviously rationalize the things that they're doing. And he says something like, "This is war. This is not some family squabble." Right? So family squabble in the context of this fight would probably be something like, he's beating her because she didn't do something, right? Like, you didn't go to school, so I'm gonna beat your ass today, kid, or something like that, right? Um, that's not. He's saying that this is separate from that. This is completely out of that. So those things that you would bring up to raise the credence from that would be useless, right? What he's saying is that this is war. This is something where we're, actually trying to kill and destroy each other, right? I'm explaining to you that the reason I wanted to do this is because sorry, the reason that we're against each other is because this is what I want and this is different to what you want. And, they can keep arguing while they're doing that. That doesn't mean that he's not trying to kill her, right? It would be obviously also not entertaining if Kaido was just sat there, like beating the fuck out of his daughter while they like sat in silence, or she just spoke at him. I don't see why that would be anywhere near as entertaining. And obviously, One Piece is not didactic. It's not primarily trying to teach us something. It's trying to be entertaining to us. And again, that narrative plot point would obviously be entertaining because it shows these two binary oppositions, and binary oppositions are naturally just something in media and in fiction that humans find entertaining. They want to make sales, obviously, so they're going to do things that are entertaining. Go ahead.
Okay. So like number one, I don't necessarily like even if I was to grant that like Yamato would be in some kind of like state or like show some kind of surprise or shock at the idea that Kaido wants to kill her and like the like shock or like surprise at this entire interaction taking course. I don't exactly know why that would mean that she would be holding back. I don't think, I mean, if anything, like I feel like it's pretty common like within abusive households, like as the kids like get to mental maturity and they understand like why like or not understand why their parents did what they did, but like understand that their parents probably did what they did because they were abusive or like they finally like understand like what they were doing was abusive, because a lot of the time kids when they're growing up don't necessarily understand or know that their parents are being abusive without them getting the knowledge of what abusive actually like is in context to like into like a familial abuse. So I do think, and I also do think that like abuse like kind of does like build up like within you like as you get older. If you get abused from like a very young age and you continue to become getting like being abused until adulthood, you're probably okay. I actually can't say adulthood, bro. Holy shit. But adulthood, then I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of built up anger and frustration towards the person that's gonna be abusing you, and that typically leads us to why a lot of times when like kids grow up they'll lash out like against their parents and like literally like beat up their father, whether that be because of how mad they are at them or because maybe their father is abusing their mother, and then the kid is gonna have to like fight them or actually like confront them about what they're doing. So if anything, like I do think that like even if Yamato is shocked or surprised at this entire interaction, if anything, I feel like it fueled the idea that she'd probably be like pretty spiteful and rageful against her father, which probably would cause her to, if anything, be even more upset and like be like more combative and like aggressive in this confrontation than she would be normally had she not been abusive to him. That's number one. Number two, I need you to repeat a little bit of like the entertainment point because you're saying that like One Piece is meant to entertain and not inform. I forgot how you tried to correlate that to this like specific conversation.
Yeah, I was just saying that it would obviously be retarded. Well, part of what I was saying, sorry, is that obviously it would be retarded if Kaido just sat there in silence and didn't really say anything. So that's one reason as to why he would be explaining what he's talking about. Sorry, why they're fighting or whatever the fuck. they also want to like give some context, but whatever. It would just be and it's entertaining obviously if people are talking. It's less entertaining if they're not talking. The other reason, actually no, that's fine for now.
Okay. I mean, again, how does that correlate to like the conversation as a whole? Like,
What do you
obviously I
mean?
understand that they'd probably be talking. I mean, yeah, obviously no shit they're talking because like we need like some of the context and the explanation as to why all this is
Well,
going
I
on, and
was
we get more
just to be clear,
information
I
from
was
their
just
family background.
giving another interpretation as to like why he would be saying this because like obviously either this is new information so it'd be entertaining because of that and that's why it's being said. What I'm saying is I'm trying to break away from this idea because obviously it seems like you're thinking of these characters as if they're like these living breathing like actual human people, right? But obviously it's the case that the purpose of these characters is simply to entertain and or inform us, right? So that we can be entertained, obviously. Now, what I'm saying is that if he's bringing up this Wano thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be because of his motivations towards her or like, trying to actually hold back and, he wants to do this thing. It can just be to let us know about this Wano thing, or if we already know it, it can just be so that he's saying something instead of being sat there in silence. Yeah. I also brought up the narcissist thing, by the way, if you don't remember that.
To be honest, I still don't really understand how this correlates. I
I
mean,
mean, if you
like,
don't think it does, we can just move on from that point and discuss the other one.
okay, sure.
All right. Okay. You said something like kids don't usually know when they're being abused, and like it builds up over time, and then like they'll beat their dad's ass or some shit. Is there anything else, or is that it?
Do you want me to like re-explain if you don't really
No, no,
like
no. I
fully
already
grasp?
did your explanation. Just is there anything important that you think I'm missing from that, like a separate point?
Not necessarily, no.
All right, that's fine. Okay. So kids don't know they're being abused and shit. Okay. Well, I mean, I would agree that in some sense, kids don't necessarily know that they're being abused at first. But I think obviously, not only within like current times when they have assemblies in schools and shit, and advertisements on TVs for kids, kids are able to like recognize at least at some point, maybe not necessarily when they're 6 years old, but I don't know, 10, 12, 15, whatever. Oh yeah, when my dad's beating my ass every night. Because I fucking didn't get him a beer, like that was probably messed up. That was probably an immoral thing. The age in the vast majority of Western countries, I think actually all Western countries, for like responsibility in criminal law is around like 11 years old, which means that the government recognizes it and society as a whole, obviously because we live in democratic countries generally in Western states, also believe, like we generally believe, our intuitions are in line with us believing that, what the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah. Um, hold on. I'm getting like scored on. Okay, yeah. Generally believe that kids can tell the difference between right and wrong by that age. So obviously, if they can tell the difference between right and wrong, they'll be able to determine. Oh yeah, when I'm getting hit in the fucking face, that probably isn't a good thing. In terms of like them, what's it called? Eventually, like beating up their parents or whatever the fuck. That again is perfectly in line with my view. Yamato is literally fighting back right now. I'm not. I don't disagree with the fact that. And you literally brought up an example. You were like, oh, you feel like they're beating their mom or whatever. That's effectively self-defense. Under the eyes of the law, you can use self-defense for someone else, right? Like if a kid's being raped and you try and stop the fucking person doing it, that's fine under the eyes of the laws, right? So yeah, that's fine under what I was saying. And then even if it wasn't, I don't know how common it is for kids to fight back against their parents, especially a woman, specifically a trans woman, against their father, their very big and strong and burly father. So I don't know why that would be the case. Like generally, I'd need some perks for that. Also seems. Oh, okay, yeah. If we're okay, I'm assuming that the narcissism and the didactic points, we're just gonna move off from those, and those can obviously have their own separate verdicts. But yeah, go ahead for that.
Okay, so like, okay, so I don't think you understand the point of what I was trying to say when I brought up the fact that like kids will usually like kind of like the anger and like frustration inside of them once like if they're being abused throughout their childhood is gonna build up to the point where like it doesn't even have to be necessarily a case where like they beat up their parents. More so like usually like whenever they reach like mental maturity and like they're kind of like like I guess they've had like their like fill with the abuse and kind of like one day it's gonna be like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and they're kind of just gonna lash out at their parents. Whether that's gonna be like the example I gave, where they beat up their father, whether that because like anger towards their father, or because they saw their father beating their mother. Or like any other situations, like maybe just cutting them off and like just not talking to them ever again, those kinds of things. Well, the reason why I said that was basically like to explain how like even if Yamato is surprised or shocked at this situation, I do not think that that's going to be any kind of nerf, and I said that as like a way to justify why I do not think that she'd be holding back in any sort of way capacity. In this situation, Yamato is 28 years old. She's basically been forced to stay in Wano for like all of her life. Her best friends who came to Wano literally died, and because like Kaido didn't like let her leave Wano, she couldn't go and try to save him. So, and it's just also a case of the abuse since she was a little last kid. And there's just like a lot of anger and like so much fucked up things that Kaido has done to Yamato, forcing isolation, being like an indirect reason as to why she wouldn't help her best friend like not get killed in combat. So I do think that if Yamato is going to be holding back, I do think that like that's like extremely unlikely, given all the things that has happened to her. Like there's just like this buildup of frustration and anger that comes with naturally being abused. There's like the other thing I mentioned with like her best friend getting killed. I feel like her holding back would be like extremely unlikely. I think if anything, she'd probably have a mental amp. Like I'm not gonna think that she has some kind of mental amp against Kaido, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and I do think that we've been on this point for long enough. But to say that she is like declined or like weakened mentally in any way, shape, or form, I think is like extremely unlikely, even if she is surprised at the situation.
Is everything?
Yeah.
All right. 1 second. Oh shit. Okay. There we go. Yeah. You said okay. There was like a few things that were obviously unaddressed there, and then like two like I think very problematic question begs. Um, and then just some shit restated. Okay. As for the new stuff, let's see. Okay. I mean, her being like trauma bonding. Sorry, her like having a lot more trauma. So like her friends dying, her being secluded to a specific location for a long time. If anything, would imply that she still has, a more immature state of mind. Like she can be 28, but when you have that kind of trauma, you can obviously act more childish, and that can stunt your development. Being physically beaten when you're a child can also stunt your development, not only physically but also mentally. Um, Obviously you didn't address quite a few things, so I hope when Oshi's watching the rec he clocked those. Let's see, what was the other thing that you brought up? Oh yeah, okay, when it comes to like frustration building up and this not necessarily resulting in a like mental nerf or whatever because cognitive should be able to, even if that was the case, which because of what I just brought up I don't think it is, that seems like almost ridiculous to say. You're saying that because consciously she's smart, she's not going to hold back. I mean, the way that I explained the extent that she needs to hold back, which was never really put into question. If you want to put it into question now, you can, I guess, and try and attack what I said back then. But um, yeah, I find that to be kind of dumb. Like, obviously, I can have a subconscious reason to hold back, especially if it's like I have a familial bond with someone. I've been beaten by them a lot of my life, and then I had my friends die in front of me. Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that subconsciously I might not want to kill one of the only like members of family that I actually have. My view of family can be very skewed the way that I see that, right? Um, yeah, I mean that's fine. I also like when it comes like even if the subconscious thing doesn't go through, in terms of it being like a conscious like holding it back or whatever. The what I'm arguing is the exclamation itself would imply that you can give something else that would like contradict that, I guess. But I'm like to like leave credence to the negation, but obviously those have been addressed. So I don't really know how about 90% of the shit I've said has actually been addressed, even outside of the two things we concluded upon, which I don't think were addressed at all. But yeah, go ahead.
I think we can move on, to be honest.
All right, that's fine. Okay, you wanted to talk about Zora? I don't really care about Zora's performance.
I just think the Zoro
Um,
performance is better than Yamato's. I can show you.
no, it's fine. He can have a better performance. I don't care about that. All right, and then King below Zoro. Yeah, I guess we can
King,
talk about that.
King above Zoro.
King above Zoro. Yeah, that's fine. We can talk about it.
Okay. If you look in scans, so essentially, like, hold on.
I want to vape. I want to vape. I'm so. Is this Future sending the scans?
No.
Is that from something else? Okay. I was so lost. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, if you just look and scan, so I'm just gonna be arguing that like King has relative speed, if not relatively above speed to Zoro, and I do think that like King has the capacity to one shot Zoro.
You said
Scan
relative
doesn't.
speed and AP, and what was the other thing? He has the ability to one-shot him?
No, I don't care for AP because the move that like I'm gonna be arguing is gonna be the win con. Has nothing to really do with
Okay,
like
so
actual like
relative
punching
speed,
power.
and then he has a move that can one-shot. Okay.
Yeah,
We can see if I
ascending.
can... Sunny? Okay, but... Oh my god, I hit another clip. Bro, Swap could actually never hit clips like this on any game, but I think it sucks. All he does is play FPSs in Valorant because he's homosexual. But anyway. Is your Wi-Fi good, buddy?
It could be better. It could be better. Okay, so I sent the
There we go.
first wave of scans. I'm gonna send the second wave. So basically, the five scans I sent are basically just gonna be parts of Zoro and King's like fight. Because basically, after Zoro like does the move like where he like scars Kaido, that was gonna be like the thing. Like I thought that he performed better against Kaido than Yamato did. After that, he like takes some medicine to heal himself because he kind of gets like he was already on 1 HP by the time he did that move. But essentially, like after he recovers from that, he fights King afterwards. So this would be the same Zoro that has the capacity to damage Kaido.
Okay,
And
wait, just to be clear, none
essentially,
of this is the Kaido stuff, right?
no, Kaido has nothing to do with this. This
Okay,
is
right, yeah, go ahead. Wait, what was the... I'm
okay.
so confused. Maybe you didn't mean to say Kaido. When you said that Scar thing, was that just to do with his performance?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can disregard that. That's fine. Okay, yeah, and then for King?
Okay, so basically, King is capable of tagging Zoro multiple times. In the first scan I sent, he kicks him to the floor, and the second time, in the second scan I sent, King blocks like a couple
My
slashes from
fault. Someone came in
Zoro,
my
and
room.
then
Restart.
okay. So in the first scan, King like kicks Zoro down to the floor. In the second scan, King blocks a couple slashes from Zoro, and then outpaces him, and then punches him in the face. In the second scan, King is shooting some like fire bullets at Zoro, and then like Zoro like reacts to the fire bullets, but then like King like hits him with his wing while he's doing that. In the fourth scan, they just clash normally, and in the fifth scan, Zoro barely reacts to like a beam shot from King. So I do think that this displays that King has like relative speed, if not relatively above speed, to Zoro. And then in the final two scans, basically King has this move where he can blow himself up. It's called Jackpot. So basically he blows himself up when Zoro tries to stab him. And then basically Zoro says afterwards that if I hadn't blocked it with armament hockey, that he would have died. Reminder, this is a Zoro that's basically who has basically healed since like being damaged from earlier. So this is like a Zoro closer to like his full HP. And basically like King has the capacity with this move to kill Zoro in one hit. So I guess
Okay,
like
so hold on, wait. So just to be clear, the argument is that they're relative in speed, and then King has this move that can one tap Zoro without armament hockey. Therefore, King is above Zoro.
yep.
Yeah, I don't think that follows. I mean, even like in terms of like the author's intent, but let alone like the actual feats, we'll get into that in a second. Um, if the author was trying to communicate to us that what do you call it? Wait, just to be clear, we're concluding off the other points, right?
The Yamato Kaido thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're done with that. We're done about
Okay,
this now.
just making sure. Yeah, okay. I'm a little high, my fault. Okay, yeah. So for this shit, I mean, if the author was trying to explain to us, that these characters are relative in speed and then one can one tap, obviously that would imply that one character would just be way better than the other, right? Like you would agree? That's what you're
Yeah.
trying to argue, obviously. Yeah. So, I mean, if that was the case, why doesn't he just do the explosion off jump and then immediately fucking rape Zoro? Also, what do you call it? Why can't Zoro just like use armor and hockey against that move, like, and then he's fine? I don't know why. I don't know why it's a problem. If what the fuck do people use in One Piece to attack? Is there like an energy source?
What do you mean? I mean, the two main power systems is hockey and devil fruits.
Do you have like hockey energy? Is that a thing, or is it just like based off your stamina?
Hockey is based off your willpower.
Your willpower? Okay. And then like each time you use a move, does it like decrease your total like willpower reserves or something?
No. Okay. Basically, how strong your hockey is dependent on your willpower, but using
Right.
hockey does take stamina.
Okay, right. In that case, with the stamina shit, okay. Yeah, how much stamina do you think it takes for what's his name, King, to use that ability? They blow himself up, kamikaze attack thing.
Okay. Well, the blow himself up thing doesn't have to do with hockey. It has to do with like his race.
Does it use his stamina?
It's never really elaborated on, to be
Well, I
honest.
assume there is an energy source because, you can't make something from nothing. We
It
would
would be
agree on
his
that, right?
probably his Lunarian
Also,
flame.
explosions are obviously just like chain reactions, so the reactions would have to need something to do, which means it'd be reliant on obviously his stamina and then whatever is within the atmosphere or environment, or I don't know, maybe his sweat has nitroglycerin like Bakugo, and he can just blow that shit up. So whatever it is, whatever the explanation, it's going to be finite, right? So it's going to be something that can decrease. You would agree with that, right?
I mean, but can you repeat like yourself? Because I'm not sure if I really caught what you were saying.
I'm just asking you if you would agree that he can't infinitely explode, right? Like he there is finite. There is some kind of thing that's being taken up, some kind of source of energy or resource, probably both, that's going to be taken up when he does the explosion thing.
I mean, I would assume so, but I don't think that really matters to what I'm saying.
Okay, but like that's a yes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of why it matters, we'll get into that in a second, but okay, can you quantify how much of that energy stuff or resource stuff King has? I'm assuming not, but
Hockey?
can you?
How much hockey King has?
No, 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 no. The thing that he uses for the explosion,
It's kind of
whatever
hard
it
to
is.
explain. So basically, King is a Lunarian, and Lunarian is like a
No,
special
no,
race
no, no.
of
Like
people.
however it works doesn't really matter to me. But can you quantify it? Like yes or no? Like the amount that he has access to, how much he can actually explode.
No.
Okay. Well then I don't know if that's unquantifiable, and then we do have some kind of quantification. I assume, or at least we can, maybe not necessarily numerically, but obviously like we can get some kind of basis through Zoro's performances on how much he can use that armament hockey shit, or how much willpower he has, so how much of it he can use. Um, so obviously, if one is quantifiable and one's unquantifiable, I don't know how you're gonna get the unquantifiable one above the quantifiable one. Every time King uses this explosion thing, I don't know why, or maybe he can only use it once. I don't know why. What's his name? Zoro can't just use fucking armament hockey. That seems like fine.
I mean, no, no, I
Obviously,
mean,
then
yeah,
mean that
I
he doesn't
agree.
just get one tapped and reap.
I mean, yeah, but what I'm saying is that like I'm not arguing like yeah, obviously Zoro has like the speed and hockey necessary to block Jackpot, but we're not really talking about Zoro. We're talking about Yamato. So what I'm saying is that like I mean the thing is you kind of brushed over my second point because you didn't really seem to like you wanted to address it. It was like the Zoro doing better against Kaido thing. I mean I can go through that because I feel like my argument would make more sense if we went through that. But essentially I just believe that Zoro blew Kaido in their interaction. What I'm arguing for is that like I don't think Yamato would have the speed like capable of even like reacting to the jackpot if King was to do it against her, which was what my argument was.
Okay, so are you dropping like King being above Zoro, and you're just going to stick with King is relative in speed to Zoro? Zoro is faster than Kaido.
Yeah, sure we can go with that.
Okay. I don't know why Zoro would be faster than. Sorry, I don't know why Zoro being faster than Kaido would imply your conclusion, because again, like the entire point of the first one was sorry, our like conversation about Yamato and Kaido's fight was reliant on whether or not Yamato was like actually putting in her full thing, and then obviously I discussed the extent thing that wasn't really addressed. So if assuming that goes through, the rest of your argument doesn't really matter. It seems like everything's just going to be contingent on that, so we can just conclude here. um yeah, man.
Okay. I mean, we can conclude this, and we can move on because I already said that if you remember in the beginning of the bit, I said I have two ways to get King over Yamato. There was this, and I had two statements.
All right, man, we can move on to the statements.
Okay, sure.
Green
Okay.
and pink. Oh.
Okay. So moving on to the statement. Um, it's kind of loading. One second. Okay, so basically, my argument is just gonna be like it's stated that like Yamato is a part of the Beast Pirates. If you don't know, the Beast Pirates are essentially like Kaido's crew, and it's also
Mm-hmm.
stated that Kaido's crew, like your ranking within the crew, is gonna be based on strength, and King is basically like the highest ranked within the crew, so which means that he would be the strongest within the crew. Thus, King would be over Yamato. I said the scans in chat. It's basically Yamato is called the princess of the Beast Pirates in her like Vivre card, and King's Vivre card. It is stated that he is the strongest and has the highest strength after after Kaido.
Yeah, right.
Wait, am I looking at? Oh, I was looking at Future's fucking thing again. Oh my god. Okay. Right. You said the rankings are based off the. Okay, what is this from?
These are from the Vivre cards.
Whatever the
They're
fuck
like
that is.
info cards for like each of the One Piece characters. If you want me to justify why
From
I can show you the scan as well.
are they based off of the manga? Sorry, not just based off of the manga. Are they directly canon to the manga?
Yeah, I can grab a statement that says so
A statement by who?
by the author.
What the author? What Oda said that the V cards are canon to the
He says
manga.
the Vivre cards and other bonus materials are used to collect information.
I don't disagree that they collect information. I don't know why that would make them canon.
I mean, I'm not sure why anyone would want to collect incorrect or non-canon information.
Well, I mean, I can give you like many examples. So, for example, one might want to buy one of the many One Piece games where there is obviously not canon to the source material information because they like playing One Piece games and seeing Luffy on their screen. So, yeah,
I mean,
someone can buy these cards to just read about the characters that they like, man.
sure, but like I think video games and like cards are different in this case because I do think that like video games are meant to entertain or like things like
You don't
video
think
games,
cards are meant to
movies.
entertain?
No, I
Shonen
think they're
Jump
meant to
cards?
inform. No, I think they're meant to
Okay.
inform.
Um, okay, I mean, okay, so are you familiar with like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc.?
No, don't know anything about that. No.
You don't know what they are?
I obviously know what they are. I don't know anything
Okay,
like
that's
more
all I
than
was
that.
asking. Yeah, so like, obviously, these card games, and on these cards, obviously, there's information on them that are meant primarily to inform, but that doesn't mean that the cards themselves aren't meant to entertain. The information can be there to inform. No one's disagreeing with that, man. But whether or not people are buying a Shonen Jump, a company that makes money by entertaining people, card to be informed or entertained, I think most people would say they're trying to be entertained.
What's your point?
That you haven't proven this to be canon, and that you saying that they're used for information doesn't prove that they're canon?
I don't think the Pokemon analogy really addressed anything, to be honest.
I mean, the Pokemon wasn't really an analogy. It was an example of why. Sorry, it was an example of cards being used to inform whilst still being there to entertain, right? Because it's a game, and you just agreed yourself that games are there to entertain. So you saying, "Oh, they're a card; they're not meant there to entertain," is just kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, but like the difference between Pokemon cards and the Vivre cards is that like you literally use the cards in a game. You don't use like Vivre cards in order to do anything but read about
I
them.
agree they're distinct. I just don't know why the distinction would be relevant and significant. Like, it seems like most of the relevant parameters have been addressed by me.
I mean, it would. I mean, it would be distinct because you're saying that like okay, like Pokemon cards, yeah, they're informed, but people also collect them for entertainment. I'm saying that like yeah, they're used as entertainment because they're literally part of a game. The same can't be said for Vivre cards. So like there would be no entertainment aspect for the Vivre cards.
Okay, but I think the issue here, right, is that obviously it's not my burden to prove that they're not canon, right? This is something that's your argument is contingent upon. And what I'm saying is that I can see good reason as to why, it could be the case that people are buying these to be entertained, and the purpose of them is to entertain, not to just to inform. And the information that is being given is there to entertain, right? Now you're just saying, oh, well, I think there's games for the Pokemon example, whatever. The example that I gave was simply just to show that it is possible for cards to do this. You need to explain why your interpretation is more likely. Otherwise, this just doesn't go through.
I mean, I think I've already addressed why it would be more likely. I don't
All
see
right.
why
Yeah, we
like.
can. If you've already addressed it, we can just move on.
Okay, well that's yeah, we went through everything then. That's fine.
That's everything. Okay, great.
Yeah, that's everything.
Dun, dun, dun. Flash save.